Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to those who saw my previous video. This is an updated version of my melee ritualist bleed build with even more tornadoes. We'll go over some of the changes like skill gems, a piece of unique gear that goes great with my boots, I think so, which prompted me to also make some big changes in the passive tree. But we'll go ahead and talk about the skill gems that I swapped out. And as you can see, it is Whirlwind Slash. I swapped out Bloodhound's Mark. Bloodhound Mark is good for endgame going up against uniques, but once you go up against Pinnacle bosses higher in difficulty, you can find that even bleeding your unique bosses, it's pretty hard to heavy stun. So I just added a fun mechanic to my build where I would add more tornadoes. So how I did that was with Whirling Slash. And to get even more tornadoes, because it does have 3 stages, you will need to slash 3 times. We're not even worried about leaving this little Whirling Slash and making it collapse. What we want is to use our skill Twisters. Hopefully we used Barrage before, but as you can see, those tornadoes are multiplying and they're pretty strong. So we'll go over some of the support that we have for Whirling Slash. First up is Martial Tempo, more attack speed, and also cadence. So it's pretty useful. All we need really is 3 attacks, and we'll get to that maximum stage. But we've also added Blind and Magnified Effect. Blind is useful because the higher our evasion rating is, the more likely they're gonna miss, okay? So Magnified Effect also, of course, increases the range of the Whirling Slash, the blind effect, but also we added Rage. So when we melee hit with Whirling Slash, we're gaining 6 Rage per hit. And if we're going towards maximum stages, that's 3 times 6 is 18. We're already halfway there with our build. We also did include or swap out an ability. I can't remember which one I swapped out, but we did attain Berserker. It's a very powerful effect. Helps with bosses and rares, of course. But let's go ahead and go into the uniques. So previously I only had the Beetle Bite shoes, but I got the Deepest Tower Spirit Bone Crown. You'll see it in my inventory in just a second. I was just showing you how big the presence is, and what this unique does is reduces the size of my presence. Pretty useful if I want to rake, then disengage out of presence, go back into rake. But also in my presence, it makes my enemies have low life, or not necessarily have low life, but have the status of low life, or for lack of better words. So I invested a lot of passive tree nodes into these low life in presence nodes. Or I guess it's not really in presence on the passive tree. It's enemies with low life. As you can see there, I invested in Adaptive Assault. I also made some pretty useful changes to Wind Dancer. I added the support Arm's Length for some added knockback distance. But in addition to that, we added Punch Through. It's easy target, magnitude of 3 per meter. Still kind of unsure if this is the right skill gem for this skill. However, the last support that I changed on Wind Dancer was Life Thief. It's additional life leech on physical attacks, and having invested life leech in passive tree, My life leech on physical attacks for Wind Dancer goes from 37% to about 50%, 50 or higher, close to 60%. So it's pretty useful, especially with enemies being in my presence. And you can see Wind Dancer is activating the whole time. And it's probably increasing my survivability by a whole lot. And I like to leave Life Thief there. I think it's perfect for Wind Dancer. Aside from Life Leech, Wind Dancer is also a melee hit. So we generate 3 rage each hit, or each time an enemy hits. For Blood Boil, we made the support change Swift Affliction. You're not able to find it if you just right click a support gem, expect it to be there. You have to search all gems. Might not see that until you search for it, but it is pretty useful since Blood Boil is a non-ailment damage over time kind of attack, but also adding persistence. I may have had that in the previous build. Next, I wanted to talk about Herald of Blood. I did make 2 changes. First being the Hameo crystals, however you say those crystals. I switched that from Bloodhunt because Bloodhunt and this support gem did not, for lack of better words, work together well. Bloodhunt would consume the bleed and Hameo crystals would not activate on Bloodhunt at all. So I just put on Herald of Blood, left it there, and things have been easy. The second support I added to Herald of Blood was Bone Shrapnel. Basically, bone shrapnel explosions on killing pinned enemies. This isn't very useful gem for me because I use the Beetle Bite unique boots, but there is a unique boots that makes physical damage pinning, and that would be the Bushwhack Lizard Scale boots. They're also a good alternative early in the game, not necessarily in game, because you're not going to find Beetle Bite just off a unique playing the campaign. It does drop from the King of the Myths in the Crux of Nothingness as a Pinnacle boss. To kind of recap some of the changes from the previous video, our main changes were the Whirling Slash, the Deepest Tower Spirit Bone Crown, as well as some of these support changes. Do I like this build more than the previous? I would say yes, for sure. I kill bosses faster, clear mobs easier. I notice I die a lot less, maybe not a lot less. There are the pros and cons about being a melee bleed ritualist. One of those cons is when I played with a Blood Mage that had the ability of rake and bloodhunt. Now that's not really a con for the ritualist, but I see the ritualist kind of being at a disadvantage with the Blood Mage because of the energy shield and evasion passive tree nodes. It would be helpful if we could invest in the passive tree in life, or in a way that kind of scales sort of like energy shield. For example, put life on armor and evasion passive tree nodes. Not a whole lot, nothing that'll break the game. So I think you could assume that the major con for this build would be one shot, mostly by Pinnacle bosses. At this stage with my build and the equipment and the level, it's definitely getting one shot by Zesh. I still haven't figured out a way to complete that on max difficulty. Now, I did figure out how to beat him all the way to get to max difficulty, and that was with Bloodhound's Mark and heavy stunning him while he transitioned in the second phase. Not very easy, and that was the last difficulty I could do that. Now, with max difficulty, Zesh is my mortal enemy. I won't even try Arbiter of Ash. I know if you can't beat the Arbiter of Ash, it's probably a skill issue, but whatever, you know what it is. This build kind of works best in small corners. As you'll notice, Barrage whirlwind slash 3 times, twister, find the corner. The best way to use twister with salvo support is using it against the wall. That kind of controls the direction of the tornadoes. But we'll go into the boss. See me set up here. If I would have hit her or him, whatever it is, with whirlwind, I would have gotten 6 rage. But I'm just gonna bleed her out, whatever. Parasha, the Forgotten Prisoner. She's got a lot of blood built up already. Trying to get that rage up. And I'll go in for the final blow here. Boom. A lot easier. But then we'll also do the audience in normal pace. We have the timer on. I took that hit like a champ, man. You will notice in my previous video, it was about 8 minutes long. This is a lot shorter fight. See the combo, rake, disengage, rake, barrage, whirlwind slash, twister, rake, disengage. Enough blood is built, I'll blood hunt. And I truly wonder if killing these totems makes the actual difference in the fight. I never really knew what they did. I just watched the video and was told that to kill them. But at least you don't have to worry about that in the second phase. I am able to get a pin build up just from hitting those totems with blood hunt unintentionally. Now, I will make a boss build, you know, when I'm trying to do Zesh. However, I think I need to do a little bit more optimizing on that. Not until I can actually defeat Zesh on max difficulty. And with that being said, once I do that, you better believe I'll make a video about it. For right now, we'll focus on this build. And I hope y'all noticed when I got hit from him earlier, I took it head on, but I was pretty much still at full health. What kept me alive right there was Wind Dancer's Gale Force on being hit. And I want to say it triggered multiple times, but there's 1 second intervals between stages of Wind Dancer. The extra life leech, my passive nodes, the fact that it's a melee hit. There's just a lot of benefits I think Wind Dancer provides. And it doesn't even cost mana, which is the last con of the Bleed Ritualist. Low mana. You might have heard Miss Huntress say she's out of mana, and it's a serious issue. I have to have life leech, or not life leech, but mana leech on some sort of equipment. I didn't invest in the passive tree nodes for mana leech. I could, but I have so little mana that, you know, 1 hit is all I need. To kind of put it in perspective, 1 hit from Wind Dancer or 1 little tornado hits a little mob guy out in distance. I'll have enough mana to use my next attack, and that, if it lands, then I'll have enough mana for at least another attack. Now, if I miss, I messed up. Unless an enemy hits me, I got Wind Dancer. That'll fill my mana gauge up all the way. Might kill him too. Another topic is party play. I usually find myself hosting matches because as a melee player with that depends on life leech and hitting them up close, getting in that presence, I do find myself having to lead the party. And when there's other players, especially a lightning storm build, it's very hard for me to hit enemies, and I can find myself not leeching any mana or any HP. Other than that, I still have fun playing with parties, no matter what. I mean, I got pin on blood hunt for a reason, so I could actually, you know, get some frenzy charges. But that's the end of the audience, and it's also the end of this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.